Hey guys, welcome to StrictlySega. This is my Lasers collection, episode 10 now, box number 9. And yes, it's a white t-shirt week, which means pickups, but I haven't actually got that much pickups at the moment. The post office has been really slow. So, just to mix it up a bit, what I'm going to share with you is 20 of my favorite cheap common discs. 20 discs you can get nice and cheap if you're just starting out. Oh, that's right. Then I went and told my friend what I was doing, and he suggested another 10 extra discs. So what we'll do is we'll do my 20 first, and then we'll go to the box, have a look through some of the box, and then cut to Stewie, get him to show you his favourite 10, and then we'll finish the box up and wrap this video up for the day. Thanks for watching. So here are my 20 favourite to begin with. Star Trek 8, First Contact. Comes with a poster, and I mean, it's a real fun Star Trek film, and a good one if you haven't watched any Star Trek before. Lots of Borg, and it covers a lot of Star Trek history. Outbreak. Well, it's the season we're in, isn't it? Plus, it's a pretty good suspenseful film. Aladdin. Robin Williams is incredible, and it's a kids' film that grown-ups can still really enjoy. Raiders of the Lost Ark. You gotta have some Indiana Jones. I wish it was mastered better in AC3 or in DTS, but it's still great. Twister. This is a very common disc that you'll probably stumble onto anyway. Heat. With amazing action scenes, and De Niro and Pacino together for the first time since The Godfather 2. The Rock. Back when Michael Bay was a little bit more restrained, but you could still have an explosive action film with some classic Sean Connery lines. Total Recall. Oh, great Arnie film. One you can watch over and over and over. Aliens. The first one is great, but it's a lot slower, and this one really kicks serious ass, and is a lot more common. Fifth Element. Be careful though, this one can be a bit of a rotter sometimes, as it's made by Sony. Now, if I could tell myself one thing back when I started collecting, would be know the difference between pan and scan and widescreen. Check out Culture Dog's new video on aspect ratio if you want to know why. Terminator 2, Special Edition. See if you can get the box set if you can, but the Special Edition is great, especially with the letter from James Cameron. Top Gun. That intro is a great one to chuck on to show your friends. Highway to the Danger Zone and planes taking off really sets the stage. Men in Black, a fun movie you can watch over and over again, and one that I actually used to show off my sound. Jurassic Park, another epic movie that's aged like a fine wine. It's amazing how the special effects still hold up. Toy Story. If you have kids or not, this is a classic, and with number 4 released just last year, it really connects the old with the new. A New Hope. Now, whether it's the Gout or the Special Edition, it's always good to have Star Wars on Laserdisc. Die Hard 3. Awesome booming AC3 soundtrack. Great fun action-packed movie. A bit of a letdown ending though. True Lies. Still hasn't come out on Blu-ray yet. And to be honest, this sounds and looks incredible on Laserdisc. GoldenEye. A great place to start your James Bond collection, especially if you plan on getting more. And number 1, Speed. Everybody has Speed. It's number 1 disc that you must have. So those are 20 commons that I suggest if you haven't started buying up Laserdisc yet. I think they're all great movies to get, but also nice and cheap, so it won't put you off before you start getting into it. I think as time goes by, you might find yourself in a position where you want to spend more money on Laserdiscs and then get the nicer versions that have the DTS soundtrack, etc. Okay, here we go with box number 9. The last disc of box number 8 was The Odd Couple, so we're moving on straight to The Out of Towners with Steve Martin. That's the first reason why I bought it. The second reason I bought it was because it's a late release disc, and I thought, hey, why not? It's cheap. It's a good movie. The funny thing was, the best part of the movie was John Cleese, especially the bad girl scene. It's quite funny. Alright, next up is Out to Sea, another Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau film. Not one of their best, but, you know, when they're together and they're on screen, there's always great chemistry, and it's a bit of a fun film, so, yeah, can't complain. 97, Dolby Digital, widescreen. Next up is... Well, this is widescreen, and yeah, this is Outland. Great film. If you haven't seen this one, it's like a western in space. It really didn't need to have the whole space frontier, but it's a nice touch. And everyone gets hooked on this drug, and yeah, no, good movie. Peter Boyle was in it too. He was the dad from Everyone Loves Raymond. Next one is Over the Top. It was on a Canon group on Facebook. There's a Canon group you can follow, and somebody had a toy. You can arm wrestling over the top toy. I thought that was quite funny. Pan and scan, but digital sound, and yeah, it's a Canon film, so it doesn't really matter to me if it's widescreen or not. You know, Canon films don't need to be widescreen. They're cheap, on the fly kind of action films. Next up, we have Pacific Heights. I don't love this movie, but when it first came out, it intrigued me. I must say, Michael Keaton playing this creepy, villainous character put me on my back foot at first. But having said that, this movie hasn't aged great, and it's, you know, it's nothing to write home about. Next up, we have Parenthood, Ron Howard classic, pan and scan, digital sound, another Steve Martin film. I like to get all the Steve Martins, as I mentioned before.
As far as I'm concerned, your grandmother is brilliant.
And yeah, it's a fun family movie. Not as in to watch with your family, but to learn a lot about family.
Yeah, if she's so brilliant, how come she's sitting in our neighbor's car?
Next up is Patriot Games, widescreen, digital sound, and this was peak Harrison Ford, Jack Ryan, I think. This is when he goes to England and has it out with the IRA, and yeah, a good action-packed film, you know, good storyline, good suspenseful plot, because it's Tom Clancy. Alright, next up is, well, this is an amazing movie, this one, Patton, sadly, pan and scan. I think it's just analog sound too, yeah. What a performance. There are so many memorable scenes, like, of course, standing in front of the flag as he is, up on the hill, pushing his troops harder, with no exception of life, as the general, I guess, should. I don't know. There's that scene when his soldier's crying and he slaps him. Yeah, it's just... It's an interesting look into the general and his life and his priorities and stuff like that. This is something a little bit lighter. This is Paternity with Burt Reynolds. Anything Burt Reynolds is usually a light film. And this is, he gets to 40 and he's a successful businessman, but wants to have kids to pass on his genes, and meets up with a whole bunch of women to see if he can have a baby with them. And eventually, the Beverly D'Angelo from National Lampoon's Vacation. And yeah, it's a cute little film, you know. This is exceptional. This is a World War I film, Paths of Glory, with Kirk Douglas, directed by Stanley Kubrick. And yeah, this is a fantastic film. This is really full-on World War I film. Digital sound, widescreen, Criterion version, which is awesome. Next up, I got this again because it was cheap and it was late release, and I always snap them up when I see a late release disc, but it's not a bad little film. Dolby Digital, widescreen, and a lot more grittier and a little bit more bloodier and you know, full on than the average rounded, you know, Mel Gibson film usually. So, Penny from Heaven. Very sweet little musical with Bernadette Peters and Steve Martin, and yeah, it's just a lovely little musical that has a tribute to other musicals. It's a tribute to musicals as well as being a musical. Nice change for Steve Martin. It's not always the same stuff. He was doing some different kind of movies during that period, like Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Okay, next up is The People vs. Larry Flint. And I really feel like this film and Natural Born Killers really gave Woody Harrelson some solid cred in Hollywood. And with me especially, you know, when he was doing the stuff like Cheers and White Men Can't Jump and stuff like that, it wasn't really something that made me go, oh wow, I really like Woody Harrelson. But this performance was amazing. He really got into the character and did a great job. Widescreen, digital sound... And that's it, pretty much. I don't think this is AC3. No, Dolby Surround. Okay, next up is The Phantom. This is the second copy I bought. The first one was Pan and Scan. I've recently replaced it with this one, the widescreen version. And although I'm not a big Phantom movie, I think the pacing in this movie seems a little bit out. My partner loves this movie, and who am I to stop her from watching laserdiscs, you know? Billy Zane, and directed by, oh no, it's not directed by Joe Dante. It's directed by Simon Windsor. And AC3 widescreen, which is awesome. Good pressing, yeah. Yeah, this and Shadow just both fit into the same category that I just can't quite get into them. Okay, next up is Planes, Trains and Automobiles. Again, Steve Martin, John Candy putting on performance of a lifetime in this movie. This is a Japanese release, obviously you can tell from the obi around the side, and it's still only pan and scan, digital sound, and yeah, this is one you can watch over and over and over again and still have a great laugh. Good film. I would love to get this, of course, in a widescreen pressing, or if it's available. I haven't even looked, to be honest with you. I'm quite content with this one. Police Academy 2. This is pan and scan with analog sound. The one where they've now graduated and they've become part of this police precinct was under attack from a gang run by Bobcat Goldthwait. And yeah, this is a silly one. This was the last of the let's be really rude and don't show this to kids kind of Police Academy. After this, they really kind of toned it down and made it more approachable for families. And if you can put this one on in front of the kids with no problem whatsoever, number 3.
Police Academy 3. Got it.
A lot of the characters make a return, like Bobcat Goldthwait and Steve Guttenberg and David Gaff, Michael Winslow. You know, it's the usual cast in every one of them. If you haven't seen Police Academy, you're not really missing much. There's just a bunch of little skits that are arranged, and then at the end of the movie, it usually breaks off into a semi-plot that goes for about 20 minutes where there involves a chase of some kind. And that sums up pretty much every single Police Academy film. And once they had the structure, they just didn't stop. They kept them coming. And this is also pan scan digital sound now, I think. We used to love this film when we were in primary school because there was skateboarding and stuff like that. It was a cool film. Up there with like Gleaming the Cube.
But I told you guys no skateboarding in my district.
This isn't skateboarding, Sergeant. This is carrying skateboard. This is skateboarding.
Okay, Police Academy 5. We're getting fatigued here. Pan and scan. Still not too sure if it's digital sound. Same cast.
What?
Almost, except now Guttenberg's left and got replaced by Matt McCoy. It's the same thing. A bunch of little jokes. They get set in a new setting. This time it's Miami. This was the worst one of the lot, actually, number 6. By this point, they'd pretty much started running out of jokes, I feel, and City Under Siege just didn't have the same kind of star power or energy about it, and putting Hightower as the lead character in the film with Michael Winslow just didn't really feel like there was enough. Yeah. Still some great jokes with Proctor and Captain Harris. Mission to Moscow. It's another one that's just... this is my least watched out of the lot of them, to be honest with you. By number 6, it was basically 3, 4 and 5 were the ones I would watch the most. 4 especially. Okay, I still haven't watched Polyester yet. I mentioned this in my pickup video that it has the cards still available inside of it and stuff like that. I'm waiting till COVID's over and I can invite some people over and we can actually watch it as a group. If it even stinks still. Poltergeist. Widescreen, digital sound, Toby Hooper. Gotta love Toby Hooper, eh? This is a sweet little one. This is the film that Ted Danson met Mary Steinberg and then they got married, as you probably know. Good movie. Really sweet little movie. Widescreen, digital sound. Okay, another one with Mary Steinberg. This is Powder, and it also has Jeff Goldblum. And yeah, this is about a kid who gets picked on a lot and ends up having the ability to control electricity out of his chest or something. I can't remember. My sister used to love this movie. It was a real kind of chick flick, you know. Anyway, widescreen, AC3. I think I'll go back and watch this again one of these days. Oh, what a classic this one is. Widescreen, digital sound. Quite a common disc, actually. I've seen this one quite a few times. And yeah, I could have chosen a better cover, I guess. But yeah, this is a good movie. Can't go wrong with a bit of Predator. A lot of fun, Arnie action, classic dialogue. And if it bleeds, we can kill it. Next up is The Pride and the Passion, which I've already mentioned in a pickup video. 1957, widescreen, digital sound, beautiful pressing, I must say. But the movie wasn't that great. Cary Grant was just lacking of energy. Frank Sinatra was putting on this weird accent that just didn't feel right for Frank Sinatra. Sophia Loren was magic. She's always magic. But the script just was lacking something, I don't know. But yeah. Don't love it, don't hate it. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, an Australian classic film. Great costumes. The ending, there's a stage show where they go to the centre of Australia to do a big show. And the ending where they get dressed up in the costumes and it goes through a whole... That scene where they go to the centre of Australia and perform in Alice Springs. And it goes through a whole montage of different outfits. That was amazing, that bit, you know. Yeah, this... You can see on the back, the lizards. Anyway, yeah, so what's that? That's widescreen, I believe, yes? Yep, widescreen and digital sound. Polygram video. They're usually a bit funny, those polygram video discs. I don't know where they're printed, but I get a lot of them. They're rotted. Okay, this is a nice one. Princess Bride. I've been hanging out for this one for ages. Anyway, so this is the Criterion version, the second pressing of the Criterion version of The Princess Bride. An absolute classic. Widescreen, digital sound, and one you can watch over and over again that will get definitely its money's worth out of it. Alright, next up is Private Parts, Howard Stern movie about his upcoming arrival to radio and his popularity in America. Widescreen, Dolby Digital. I'm okay with this one. I don't love it. It has some... Well, the first time I saw it, I was quite taken back by it. You know, I thought, hey, I hadn't really been exposed to a lot of Howard Stern, because we don't have that kind of stuff over here. Our radio is so boring compared to American radio. Okay, next up. Oh, The Professional. Classic movie, Luc Besson, John Reno, Gary Oldman, Natalie Portman, Danny Aiello. What a great film. Good action scenes. Really well shot as always, because I love the way Luc Besson films and shoots films. I don't know if it makes Speed look like a ride to Grandma's house. I don't think it really classifies that much, but it's a good film. Next up is The Program. I was on a 50-50 fence about getting rid of this or keeping it, but James Caan is the kind of kicker on this, and it's actually a pretty decent storyline as far as football movies go. You know, it's I think Varsity Blues and this are a great pair. Put it that way. Okay, Proof with Hugo Weaving, who you might know as Mr. Smith from The Matrix, and Russell Crowe, who you know from the Gladiator film and Robin Hood and Beautiful Mind.
You've been blind all your life.
No,
What were you doing driving a car?
I forgot.
And seeing these two powerhouse actors together in one film is really quite a pleasure to behold. It's not really a great film. It's not really a funny film. It tries to present itself as a comedy at times. It's very dark and a little bit psychopathic, and yeah, it's interesting. Interesting film. It's The Prophecy. Oh, what a cool little Christopher Walken film. Yeah, it's something that every horror fan should watch at least once. You know, even if you're just starting up on horrors, it's a good one to go. I believe this is widescreen, and yeah, it's just digital sound. Widescreen and digital sound. Quentin Tarantino's classic Pulp Fiction. One that had me going nuts about watching it over and over again.
With great vengeance and furious anger, those who attempt to poison and destroy my brother.
And this is a very nice pressing. It's very common, but I would love to get my hands on that box set of Pulp Fiction that's out there eventually one day. Next up is Pump Up the Volume, about a dude who has a home radio station and stirs up a bit of teenage angst in the local community. Has Christian Slater and Samantha Mathis. And when she reads poetry, it's just, you know, I mean, I guess if I was 14, I would absolutely love the poetry in this. But what I really liked about it was the homemade radio station kind of thing, you know. And the music was great in this movie too. Next up, we have Pure Luck. What it is about it's such a silly comedy, this one. Martin Short helps a police detective, Danny Glover, find a woman who has really bad luck. And Martin Short also gets really bad luck. And they figure, you know, if you put two of them, get one person who has really bad luck, find another person who has really bad luck, maybe something will happen where they find each other. And it's not hilarious. There are such silly bits in this. You know, Martin Short really went for the physical comedy a lot during the early 90s. And there's another one where he's a kid or something like that the whole time through the film. When I remember watching the trailer as a kid, seeing this, and I thought this movie looked hilarious. So anyway, pan and scan, digital sound, and it is what it is. Moving on. The Quest. This is a great Van Damme film. It's the thinnest possible storyline you could get, but some of the best action scenes. Me and my friends would pull apart the fights and structure them and look at them and see all the different styles and talk about them and discuss them into deep depth. Widescreen, digital sound, The Quest. Alright, Bill Murray classic. When I was sick, I would often watch this. I would rent this movie a lot. Even though there's a lot of other movies to rent, I would often come back and rent this movie over and over again. I don't know, just a certain comfort to it. Bill Murray, classic Bill Murray film. It's not his funniest. What's his name? Randy Quaid is actually funny, quite funny in this too. And yeah, it's a crazy robbery that it goes really right, and then the getaway goes wrong because they can't seem to get out of town. Raising Cain. Oh, this was a good film. Brian De Palma directed this one, and it stars John Lithgow, who has multiple personalities. And I know someone who has multiple personalities, and according to them, there's a lot of things that are wrong with this film, but there's a few things they got really quite right. Widescreen, digital sound, creepy cool movie. Alright, now, just before we wrap this up, let's quickly have a look at Stewie's 10 picks.
Selecting from what's left in the top 100, and in no particular order, here's 10 more to give an extra look at for your collection. Forrest Gump. Now, a movie doesn't get this well-known and well-quoted without being really good. With a soundtrack equally as amazing as the film itself, definitely, to my opinion, always worthy of being in any collection of film. Highlander. A movie with an odd pedigree including music written by Freddie Mercury and Queen. A really engaging storyline about an immortal Scotsman. This 1986 fantasy adventure with Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery was amazing. Apocalypse Now. Another film that's really, in my opinion, just good to have in a collection. is a film that really tested the boundaries of how hard cinematography could be earned. Into the Hearts of Darkness is a testament to what they went through to make that film, and when you, again, get such great soundtrack involved in epic viewing, this has got to be in your collection too. Mars Attacks. It's a hard line to walk doing sci-fi and satire. Comedy is rather unforgiving when it comes to sci-fi at times. This film was both terrifying and hilarious. I remember the first time I heard the aliens speaking, and it gave me chills, and also had me laughing hysterically throughout the film. So many huge names on the bill, and a mind-blowing ending that I really didn't see coming. Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. I mention these two together because obviously Tarantino, a man who is especially good at matching perfect tunes to really interesting scenes in film. If you spot them, grab them. Fantasia. Disney 1940. The first film for cinematic release with surround sound. I have so many fond memories of these animated pieces set to music written years and years before. When I watched this on VHS as a child, I actually had no idea that the music was not written for the animation, and that they made the animations to fit the music. Escape from LA. Snake Plissken did such a good job escaping from New York that he got himself a sequel. And here's a character that did so much to set the paradigm for memes and parodies decades later. And whilst the effects get a little PS2 at times, it's a film that's a lot of fun, if not definitely a bit ridiculous. Schindler's List. A very poignant film that spoke very, very loudly of the horrors of that time in our world. I added this film to the list not just because of how beautiful a film it is, but because Charlie informs me that black and white is amazing on Laserdisc. 12 Monkeys. Directed by Terry Gilliam, starring Brad Pitt and Bruce Willis. This film spoke about time travel and destiny in a way that I'd never seen before. This is a great place to start your Terry Gilliam collection. The Crow. The last film of Brandon Lee, son of Bruce Lee, who sadly died during filming, was a dark gothic tale set in a grey and gloomy city that suffered arson attacks on a yearly basis. Eric, brought to life by a mysterious crow, is set in the path to avenge the death of himself and his fiancée a year earlier. With an awesome grunge soundtrack that punctuated the movie perfectly, this film got a lot of replay for me. And for a movie that even used model cars for chase sequences at times, this film still stands really strong after all these years. I really wouldn't bother with any of the sequels though.
Okay, next up we have the Rambo series. Now, let's start with the first one. We have First Blood. Wasn't even called Rambo back then, was it? And yeah, it's about a soldier coming back from Vietnam, being pushed over the edge, not being respected by the law, and he just snaps, doesn't he? You know, and yeah, it was a good movie with really good acting. Actually, for Sylvester Stallone, especially back then, yeah, quite satisfying. Then we have the Rambo that everyone kind of imagines. You know, we have him in the jungle shooting giant arrows that explode, and you know, killing lots and lots and lots of people. This is pan and scan, but digital sound still, so it's good for Rambo 2, but Rambo 3 is my favourite. This is great. Widescreen, digital sound, whoops. And yeah, just fantastic film. It sums up so well when you've got the helicopter and the tank doing a game of chicken, you know, yeah. Okay, next up, Ransom. This is a pretty common disc. Gary Sinise, Mel Gibson, Rene Russo again. Anyway, so yeah, boy gets kidnapped. So instead of paying the kidnappers, he puts a reward out for anybody else to get the kid. And if he brings the kid back, then you know it just turns the tables on the kidnappers. And yeah, it was a cool movie. I remember seeing this one at the cinema. Ron Howard movie, that's cool too. And yeah, widescreen, AC3. Okay, next up, Red Heat. This was an attempt of doing it was pre-Twins. This is the movie that came out before Twins, after Running Man, I think it was, for Arnie. And they paired him up with James Belushi, who's kind of It's sort of, I guess you kind of look at it like a Rush Hour kind of movie. It's okay. Walter Hill is a pretty decent director when it comes to good action scenes. And the big fight at the end, you think there's going to be this big fight at the end where James Belushi just collapses out of exhaustion and goes, alright, you go, do your thing with him. And then he goes up to him and shoots him twice and it's over, you know? And I'm like, what? What about a big, fight with Arnie, Anyway, we got Razorback. Classic Aussie horror. Bit cheesy, but still kind of fun. I don't know, if you like horrors, it's kind of a bit of fun. Real Genius. I've been so long since I've watched this movie, I can barely remember it. And I'm not a big fan of Val Kilmer. I just don't like his energy on... oh, look, it's by Pat Proft, the guy who made Police Academy movies I mentioned before. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Next up, we have The Ref. Alright, this is okay. This is Dennis Leary, Kevin Spacey, and Judy Davis. So we've got a divorcing couple, and a robber breaks in, and then takes them hostage, and kind of gives them marriage counseling while doing it. This is a lot of fun. I remember grabbing this one recently, actually. Ren and Stimpy. This is like the greatest hits, which is good, because that's what, Ren and Stimpy... That's the Ren and Stimpy I remember, And, I remember getting up very early in the morning and watching this before school. Weird way to start your day. Reservoir Dogs is an ultimate classic. Quentin Tarantino's first movie as far as he directing. Classic cast. Tim Roth was great. It was a good ending, and the classic ear removal scene. So, had some highlights at the time. If you haven't seen it before, it's definitely worth checking out. Okay, next up is The Right Stuff. Widescreen, digital sound, I think. Yep, and a good movie. Dennis Quaid, Ed Harris. Who directs it? It's about the men that led the charge into moving into the speed of sound and then onto going up into space. And it was a good story. I was watching a YouTube video recently where a guy was talking about how some of the special effects they were doing were incorrect from what really happens. For instance, in the movie when he's about to hit the speed of sound, everything's shaking like crazy, and in real life you're going too fast, and that shake would just rip you apart if you were doing something like that. Yeah, it's a little bit incorrect, but mostly still great that they're showing people that, I think. Next up, we have Richard Pryor live. This is not my favourite live performance of his, but it's up there. It's some great parts in this. I love it when he does characters and stuff like that. And yeah, fully uncensored, and yeah. When he was on his, I think that would have been 83 or something like that. 82, 83, I think this concert was. Risky Business. Who directs this? Paul Brickman. Don't know. Anyway, so this, it's okay. I mean, Tom Cruise does not sell to me as a teenage high school student. And I really didn't get into Rebecca De Mornay that much. But having said that, it's a fun movie. It's got a good plot line and some funny scenes. And, widescreen digital sound. Next up is a DTS disc. I love them DTS discs. River Wild with Kevin Bacon and Meryl Streep. What? And this is a nice action movie. I barely remember. But I got another DTS disc. I just got it because it was DTS, I think. Well, I love my Mel Brooks movies, especially if you can get ones that have commentary tracks on them. This one, Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs, all great commentary tracks. And I watched this so many times as a kid. I used to find some of the scenes absolutely hilarious, because Robin Hood was really popular around the early 90s. Okay, next up we have the Criterion version of RoboCop. Really nice in here. This is a nice CAV version of it. So you can locate any frame and play it, really slowly, or play it backwards slowly, or whatever. And it has special features: unrated director's cut, audio commentary, storyboard comparison. So yeah, it's really cool. I'm rapt to find that one. Robocop 2, this is a big step down. This is only pan and scan with digital sound. But the movie's a bit of a big step down too. I didn't like this nearly as much as the first one. It's okay. I mean, I wish they included that bad guy more. And next up is Robot Jocks. This is the Japanese disc. I'm not sure if it's widescreen or not. I can't tell from digital sound. It's about how America and Russia were fighting, instead of wars, having these kind of giant Transformer Voltron kind of fight. Kind of cool, I thought. The movie is very much like Death Race 2000. Has that real cheesy kind of vibe to it. Which is okay if it was a 1978 movie, or 1975 movie, like Death Race was, but this is 1990. I guess it's a B-grade film, and that's the reason why, or something like that. In consideration, it's okay. I don't hate it, but it was a bit disappointing. I was hoping for more. And lucky last is Michael Bay, The Rock. Sean Connery, Nick Cage, Ed Harris, Jerry Bruckheimer production. And it's a classic, isn't it? The Rock. I think it's a good, fun film and great to introduce new viewers into. A lot of people who love the Michael Bay movies they watch nowadays would definitely like this film. And that's it for this episode. Next episode we'll be doing, hardware with black t-shirt, so hardware stuff. I don't want to say yet, because I don't know. It just keeps on changing. I have a plan, and then things just go skew with. But please tick that subscribe button down there, okay? Just tick it. Just tick it. And see you next episode.